Okay, so the first thing I just want you to know is that, basically the class that you took has a digital like sibling, if you will. So if I go to aws.training, one of the things I just want you to be aware of, and this actually will come up in the ramp up guide that we're going to look at. Sorry. Is that aws.training basically is where Amazon hosts a bunch of free resources, right? Now, this can be overwhelming, but think of it as a little bit of a buffet, and I'm going to scope you down to the pieces that are relevant for certification, because we actually have a certification study guide. So which is going to be very useful. But if you sign in, and just be aware that you will actually have to sign in on the left, unless you know for a fact that you have an APN login. That's Amazon's partner network. Some people at Boost seem to have an APN login. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're going to sign in on the left. So you hit the left sign in button. What happens is it's going to ask you for an Amazon login. Please do not use your bah.com email. Do not create one for your bah.com email. Security will call you. Your manager will get an email. It's nothing ugly. They're just going to harass you a little bit. So don't do that. Okay. But meanwhile, I'm logging in with my Boost email. Sorry, not my Boost, my like personal email address for Amazon. And what this does is this is now logging me into aws.training. It's free, doesn't cost anything, easy to do. Sound like there was going to be a question. No?
No, I was just going to comment about don't use your Booz Allen account because they harass you.
Oh yeah, anytime, Carl. Add plucky commentary anytime you want. So one thing to note is that if we come up here and you guys just, and ladies just took the Cloud Practitioner class, right? What you can do is you can just search for Cloud Practitioner and we can just switch over to digital training. And what will happen is, assuming that you can spell Cloud Practitioner correctly, is you will actually get both the link to the e-learning and the certification exam kind of link as well. But what you're looking for is the e-learning link, which is this one right here. Now I'm going to make this super easy for you. I'm going to post it in chat. This actually is the official course. So if you click on this and log in, it will allow you to run back through the entire course. But this time there's going to be a video commentary. So it's going to be all like video based and link based and whatnot. So all of these modules that you just covered, which I hopefully look familiar, like compute in the cloud and global infrastructure and networking and whatnot, that were inside the official AWS class you just took, you can actually rerun through them and dive in a different way with this digital course. This is the way the course was originally taught, and then people didn't want just this, and so they added an instructor-led course for people to take. The course also previously had labs, and that changed for some reason. I don't know why. I guess they wanted to make it less technical and intimidating for people, which I agree with, actually. It's a good stretch. But notice that I think it's 10 modules are here. Actually 11, I guess, if you include the certification basics. So note that you can actually rerun through the entire course, which is not a bad idea for those of you interested in certification. So it's not horrible. The other thing that we like to talk about here is that not only can you rerun back through the course, but the other thing to note is that there is actually in a sense, like a study guide or a ramp up guide that you can use to study for the Cloud Practitioner certification. We have one that we provide as part of like our study groups, and AWS also has one. They're both really good. Ours is a little bit more focused than theirs, but I want to show you both of them just so you can see, have both of them. I probably recommend that you use ours, but I just want you to know that they're both out there in case you ever decide to go back and kind of acquire more skills or whatnot. But first step is that know that you can go back and retake the digital training just by going to aws.training. And the website is literally this. That's it. You log in, you can search for Cloud Practitioner, click that link, and it will take you directly to this class. Any questions about that before I move on to the guides?
No questions.
Okay. Now, because I was woefully unprepared, I'm going to open up the search for Cloud Practitioner study guide because I was not aware that that's what we were actually doing. So I apologize. That was mea culpa on that one. So let's see, clients, booze. You guys get to see how everything's made. summer certification program. And let's see, I think we had a base template. Did we not? We did. Okay. So, pardon me, I got a phone ringing in my ear. All right. So let's see, I'm having trouble finding that particular guide. So let me switch over to the ramp up guides for AWS. So this is the ramp up guide for Cloud Practitioner Essentials. So this is the one that is written by AWS and co-authored by some of the AIs. These are Amazon authorized instructors like myself. So this particular link is probably one of the broader links that you can use to actually get access to a step-by-step instruction set for how to study for Cloud Practitioner Essentials. Now, this, by the way, has things like web pages, videos, other web pages. And so this will allow you to run through the whole thing as far as like how to prepare. Do note that the digital training link for the 6, and it's actually 6.5 hours for Cloud Practitioner Essentials is listed here in the event that like somehow like, you know, you lose it, right? Just know that it is actually linked here and you can actually click on it and run through it. So for example, if I click on this, it will actually take you, you know, to sign into digital training. You'll see me do the exact same thing just to make sure I can support it. And then it will actually take you directly to the link that we were literally just looking at Cloud Practitioner Essentials. Okay, so that particular PDF. Okay. Okay, let's go back to this. Oh, that's right, because I clicked on the link, it actually ate it. That's right, I forget that it does that. Okay, so here back to the ramp up guide. Notice that it does it in phases. So there's the fundamentals of cloud as step 1. Then it goes into a deeper dive around cloud fundamentals. And then this is where the digital training was previously linked in. And then this covers a bunch of other pieces. Now, a word of caution. It is ideal that you would like kind of like go through all of this stuff, but don't feel like you got to memorize this, right? Don't feel like you've got to memorize, for example, all the aspects of how pricing works in the well-architected framework, right? Because like there's a 3.5 hour white paper on how pricing works. That could be pretty intimidating, right? So my recommendation to you is just skim the information that's really dense, like the white papers, but mainly stick with the digital trainings and the infographics. Those are going to be your best bets. Remember that this is a foundational course. And so if you haven't seen this before on the AWS certification site, if you look at like, okay. Thank you. That's exactly where I wanted to go. If you haven't seen this before, is that the Cloud Practitioner exam at the very bottom there in the black hexagon, that's actually the base level of certifications. So remember that they're not looking for deep levels of expertise. They're just looking, do you understand the names of the services? And do you understand what the services do? And then there's a few things around, do you understand Amazon's, like, you know, how they think of cloud in terms of benefits, their 3 deployment models. They just ask you about core concepts. They're not going to deep dive and like, do you know how to set up EC2 virtual machines and set up their like virtual hard drives? That's not going to happen. And you're certainly not going to get like deep security questions or anything along those lines. This is really just fundamentals. Now, the exam itself, right, just to deviate from the guide for a second, is a 90-minute exam. It does cost $100. By the way, people frequently ask me if like, does Booz reimburse for that? If you've taken it as part of a class, sometimes you end up with a voucher. Sometimes they'll let you reimburse it as part of taking it for a course. The bottom line is talk to your manager. That's what they usually say. But then once you schedule them, this is really just a 90-minute, 65 question, either multiple choice or multiple right answer kind of trivia exam. That's really all it is. So when I show you a ramp up guide like this and ask you to kind of run through it, you just know that you're doing this at a foundational level. So 3.5 hours for a white paper? No. Skim it, maybe have a glass of wine or something. That's what you're into while you're doing that. or LimeWire. Then I'm not here to judge. And just run through these kind of pieces. But this is what this ramp up guide does, is it gives you the ability to learn deeper on subjects. But again, your main goal for Cloud Practitioner is know what the services do, know what their acronyms are, and know a little bit about how Amazon thinks about pricing and how they think about benefits of the cloud. That's really it. So this ramp up guide will give you those level of details, and it's actually really good. It's very thorough. If you do everything here, including these self-paced labs, you will be thoroughly prepared for the exam. You will be super confident walking in. And I've got one other piece that I'm going to talk about that actually is going to boost your confidence even more. But that's the second part. So the first part is that you have access to the Cloud Practitioner training. Again, the second part is that here's a ramp up guide that you can literally follow step by step. That's going to just make sure all of your gaps are filled out. Notice that after step 3, it says get certified. Pretty straightforward. One thing I do recommend is that these sample questions, don't do that. You don't need to do the sample questions. Why? Because the third step I'm going to suggest is going to have you give you a better set of sample questions. Now, if you want to use these, you can. They're not awful, but they're not the best. And so I'm going to give you the best sample questions. And the other thing is that do the training again, follow the ramp up guide. And then once you feel like you're done with the ramp up guide, then you want to move on to phase 3. This is the third phase. And the third phase is what we call the practice time. So there's a website that we're in partnership with a gentleman named John Bonso. And John runs this tutorial dojo site, and John has photographic memory. So he works with Amazon to make sure he doesn't cross the line, but he rewrites the questions that he knows because he's got a photographic memory and rewrites them to make them palatable for practice exams. This is all legit. Amazon's fully aware of it, right? And so he makes sure he doesn't like cross the line. But there is actually a Cloud Practitioner set of exams here. Now, here's the cool thing about doing John Bonso's exams. And you can also find him on Udemy, but just some like not so good news is that this isn't in your Udemy for Business account for booze, just so you're aware. But if you want to spend about like maybe $10 or $15, today it's 15, but he usually runs sales. You can actually come in here and do what's called the review mode exams. And then that will allow you to basically run a practice set of exam questions and practice recalling the information. And so let's take a look at one of these. So let's start this quiz. So let's say we just go back to question number 1, for example. What's cool about John's questions is that, first of all, the questions are very straightforward. What's the minimum number of availability zones that you should set up for your application load balancer in order to create a highly available architecture? So just giving you a thought here, since they're asking for a highly available architecture, right? And what's the minimum number of AZs? Amazon has a very explicit best practice for this, which says that basically we need 2 at a minimum to create high availability. Now, what's cool about doing the review mode practice exams with John is that if you click on check, what happens is, first of all, he tells you right away if you're right or wrong. And he tells you like what the correct answer is and why, gives you all the architecture. Then he tells you why the other answers are wrong. So he tells you why the other answers are wrong. And then what's really cool is that he gives you references from the original AWS documentation. If there's a cheat sheet that's relevant, he has that as well. And sometimes, this is rare, he has a video. It's like, hey, why don't you look at this load balancing video to really kind of like flesh this out? But that's not always common. And so that's the way his questions are presented, right? So companies planning to adopt a hybrid cloud architecture with AWS, which of the following can they use in estimating their costs, right? So, in this particular case, a pricing calculator and probably a sales representative, because the rest of these don't really estimate costs for workloads ahead of time. So click check, and then he tells you exactly why, tells you why the other things are wrong. Same thing, references. In this case, he has a cost and billing management cheat sheet, which is spectacular. So these are the Tutorial Dojo's practice exams. Highly recommended. And I'm going to send out the link actually for Cloud Practitioner. But actually, hold on. Let me get a better link just so everybody can see. You can also get these on Udemy if you like, just you already have an account on Udemy and you like him. John Bonso, which is why I pasted the name out there. He's actually out there. And by the way, once you purchase these exams, he seems to maintain them for years. Like I think this one expires in 2024. So that means that when you next go up for recertification, you're going to have a current set of practice exams that you can use. So just something to be mindful of is that these practice exams are what we ask to be like the third phase of what you do after you've finished studying the ramp up guide. So, you know, phase one, probably like retake the class or at least take the portions that you don't really feel strong in. Phase two, take that ramp up guide and run through the whole thing. Phase three, just go ahead and do these exam questions, in particular, the review mode questions, until you feel like you can get about a 90%. Now, he has 5 sets of review mode questions here. You only need to do about 2 or 3. 2 if you're like already in IT, maybe 3 if you like need some extra practice. But what we're looking for is for you to get 90% on one of the tests first. Just take it again and again and again until you get 90 or 95%. And then set 2, you take that one again until you get 90 or 95%. And if you feel comfortable with technology, you might stop there. If you want a third, go for 90% on a third set of review mode questions. Once you do that, you're ready to take the exam. You've already done all the study, right? You've done your practice exams. You figured out where you're strong and where you're weak, and you fixed your gaps. You walk in, you take the test, you know, you get your, you know, north of, I think 740, maybe 750 is what you need to pass. You get north of that and you're done, right? So it's really just, it's really like that straightforward. Questions thus far about any of those 3 phases?
This is helpful. Thank you. I hadn't heard about this website for the tutorials.
This is the one that we have everybody doing where they're if they do the ramp up guide and they do the tutorials dojo, they're passing on first try. So that's not a guarantee, obviously, but like everybody who's done it, even like 80% of that actually has passed. And those were the emails I was getting yesterday where people were like, I've never been so confident in taking an exam. I was like, oh, good. You know, so and those were all cloud practitioners that were sending confirmations yesterday. Okay. I do want to take a moment, give me just 1 second to find our certification guide. I know that sounds weird, but we were not originally doing cloud practitioner for booze, not because we haven't done it before, but we were doing all of the other certifications because Amazon actually was like, hey, we want to take care of the cloud practitioners. So I don't know what they used for that, but we have our own thing. So give me just 1 second. Meanwhile, if anybody has any questions, please by all means ask me while I'm kind of sorting through my Google Drive for a second. Ah, here it is. Found it. Good. Okay. Oh, good. So let's share this and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so this is our ramp up guide, which, you know, has some distinctions to it that are probably a little less dense compared to the other guide. So if you had to choose, I would say probably use our guide, not because the other one isn't fabulous. There might be a little bit of overtraining in the other guide. And so I'm kind of like keen on the shortest path because time, right? Time is the most important thing. So first of all, has anyone received this guide in any way, shape, or form? Anyone got an email with this?
It does
I
not
didn't
look
get it, no.
Okay, we're gonna fix that. So I'm gonna send an email to them and say, hey, by the end of the day, can we make sure that they all have access to this? Just in case, I'm gonna share the link to this guide in the chat so you can have it just in case for some reason it doesn't get there, right? So as a matter of fact, I'll actually send it as a PDF just to make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Can we not do that? Hold on just 1 second. I don't think they need all of that. I think they just need this. There we go. Always like it better when it comes together like that. Okay, so let's export this out. That way I can just roll it over for you. There we go. All right, so it should be pasted in chat. Please download it. I'm also going to tell them just to officially send you a copy, which may have slightly different bells and whistles. Like this has different dates in it, but you can extrapolate that this is a week by week thing. So our study guide basically has you taking those John Bonso, those tutorial exams. It has you take the final assessment. That's a good idea if you want to see how close you are to passing the exam. You don't have to. These links are active, by the way. So when you get the PDF, it should take you there. There's also a little video that typically we share, but honestly, you got your own because that's what we're doing right now as I'm talking about the program. Most of the time, people just get access to a video about how to onboard. And then here's the CPE fundamentals, and there's the digital training link. So that's the thing I was literally just talking about at the beginning, saying here's your digital training. And then, of course, there are some like listed ILT instructor-led meetings in here, which are not going to be part of your program, at least not yet, unless you request it. But there's other digital trainings in here, such as the CPE fundamentals, some of the supplemental labs, but mainly with this particular exam, we say, look, take the CPE training again, maybe skip the AWS official ramp-up guide because it might be overkill, and then just start the practice exams. So our layout for this is very different because it lets, at least for this exam, we're not advocating that you go and do a bunch of hands-on experience and other pieces that are advocated in the AWS ramp-up guide, because quite frankly, it's overkill. We're not there yet. You're not going to be doing any hands-on stuff, both for the exam and as a cloud practitioner. It's not expected of you. They just want you to be conversant in cloud concepts. So typically for us, we say, look, go back and do the CPE training again. That's what this little link is right here. It's the very thing we talked about at the beginning. And then with this ramp-up guide, we say, if you want some hands-on labs, you can go do what's in the official AWS ramp-up guide. But otherwise, just go forward, go straight into Tutorial Dojo, because here's the cool thing about the Tutorial Dojo test, as you saw, is that it's going to teach you your gaps. If you come in here and run through a bunch of questions, right? If you come in here and run through a bunch of questions and you start failing everything around like billing, then you probably know that you probably want to go back to the official training and maybe look at billing again, but just keep taking those questions. One of the things that people reflect back to me is they're like, hey, Michael, but if I take your 3 practice exams with John on Tutorial Dojo and I get a 90 or 95% and I'm just taking the same test, am I not just memorizing the answers to the questions? Yes, you are. That's the point, right? I want you to memorize the answers to these questions, not because of the specific questions, but because you're gaining knowledge about what EC2 stands for and what S3 stands for. It's not just that you know the answers to the questions, you're actually memorizing what the answer is to that type of question, right? So just know that like people are like, well, doesn't that mean I'm, and it's like, yeah, you are. But this is a trivia exam and you are memorizing the answers to trivia, right? Details about the AWS service. Now, if you are going for another role beyond this one, we would never advocate that because not a fan of paper certifications. But this is literally a certification that says, do you understand the concepts of cloud? Not what can you do with cloud, right? So this is perfectly appropriate for this foundational level. So I hope that's clear, is that our guide advocates that you just go back through the Cloud Practitioner digital training and that you then just run through the practice exams. If you want additional learnings, because you're like for example, and I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the gentleman who joined last, who told me he was a system administrator. If you need more hands-on experience because you are typically a hands-on role, go look at the ramp-up guide. If we go look at the ramp-up guide, there are plenty of self-paced labs that you can literally click on, for example, S3. And if you click on this, it will literally take you to Amazon's official lab provider and allow you to run a lab in a dedicated AWS account. So just know if you do desperately need that hands-on experience, you can get it, but it's not recommended for necessarily for you to pass Cloud Practitioner. Any questions about any of that?
No, that's actually really helpful because before I took last week's class, I took a different class on Udemy and it was like 14 hours long and it was so big in scope that it was almost impossible to memorize everything that was in that course. So I think this is going to help me with scoping it down exactly what I need to focus on.
Yeah, this is leaner. If you take the practice exams and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're horribly failing everything related to security, go back and take the CPE exam, or just keep going. Because like I said, the practice exams are they're going to teach you your gaps. So that's why we like them.
No, it's good. I like it.
The other thing that's a little bit of bonus for you all is that this is amazon.quicklabs.com. This is the link, and I'm actually going to post that in the chat so you can have it. Just for you, not like you is just like you 4, but pretty much any Booz employee who takes anything with us with Web-based solutions. If you sign up with this, like if you create a login on amazon.quicklabs.com, which is different from the URL that you used in class, if you used one, if you sign up on amazon.com with your bah.com email address, you will get free credits to run any lab on Quick Labs that you want to. So just letting you know that if you are like even beyond Cloud Practitioner, if you're like, hey, I want to run a lab on let's pick something, Lambda, right? And so this one's free, this one's free, all that stuff is free. Hold on, let's pick containers actually, or ECS. So this costs 1 credit. Now, normally you'd have to pay $1 for that because every credit's $1. Because you're a because you're a Booz employee, if you sign up with your bah.com email address, like that's the login that you create, you will get access to your credits that are just for you. And your names have already been registered because I checked. So I'm sorry, your email addresses have already been registered because I checked. So just know, if you want hands-on experience, even outside of what's listed on the ramp up guide, if you go to Quick Labs, that URL I provided, you can just go out there and run whatever labs you want. And by the way, there are some really sophisticated labs out here. If I saw something the other day on security that really kicked me up. It was like a 10 access lab. Was it DynamoDB? Why am I only getting 1? Oh, because it's set to introductory. Let's skip all that. Anyway, so like this is a 10 credit lab on how to size the DynamoDB database. Again, that may not be of interest to you because you don't need it for whatever reason, but just know there's really sophisticated labs out here if you need to check into something. If we go back to security, now that I've removed the introductory check, you'll see like how to monitor security groups with automation, with CloudWatch events, setting them up with AWS config. There's all like kinds of cool stuff out here. So just know that you also have unlimited access to this. Now, this could be a distraction for Cloud Practitioner, but again, if you need hands-on to really drive the concept into your brain, for Booz employees, this is what you got. Okay. Okay. So that's really like my whole spiel about the different phases. Does anyone have any questions about how and what to do from here?
Nope. I just need to carve out time to go through all this and prep. But I love the fact that you have provided a nice roadmap for us to follow. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's what it's intended for. So probably what I'll do is assuming like next week is like your start date. Probably what I'll do is I'll go ahead and update the spreadsheet with proper dates on it, and just remove the ILT stuff since that's not part of this particular program, and then make sure that this is sent out to y'all so you can have a better spreadsheet. But the one you have has all of the core components. That's just cosmetic changes that I'll make. Just to say this is that it probably is a good idea to dedicate about 3 or 4 hours a week of going through the practice exams. It can be 90 minutes to 2 hours, but if you get 4 hours a week, you're gonna get through the review mode exams really fast, and you're gonna be ready to take the exam within about somewhere between 3 to 6 weeks if you do that. Okay. Well, we don't need to go through the whole hour, but the floor is open. Questions of any type.
Thank you very much.
I think just a comment because I wasn't sure if I was ready for the exam or not. So I think that going through the practice exams and getting 90 to 95 lets me know that I'm ready. So I think that's a big thing for me.
Good. Yeah, AWS doesn't say this enough, but taking the class doesn't give you all the information you need to pass the certification. And that's why they're not named the same thing, which is a little weird, but they're named similarly enough that everybody assumes, for example, if you take the developer class, then you're ready to pass the developer certification. But when you take the practice exams, you're going to see tons of content that are not in the class. So, Darlene, that is actually going to make sure that you're ready, because there's a lot of questions that are not actually covered in class at all, and they're nowhere in the content. So it's not like a instructor faux pas. There's really nothing there. So this will definitely give you the extra 30 or 40% to get across the finish line. Okay. Oh, let me do this really quick, just to make sure that you have this link. As you can imagine, I do a lot of work for Booz for WebAge. So let's see. Let's go to history videos. Let's create a quick playlist, and then I'll share the playlist with you, and then I'll put this video in there. So you won't see it at first, but give it like a day or so and it'll show up. So that way you can just have the playlist instantly. This is going to be unlisted, and this will be the 2021 0901 CPE BAH study group. Assuming that I can actually not camel case everything. Good. There we go. Okay, so I'll paste this link in there. So I'll put the video up there as soon as it's done processing. So hold on to that. You'll have a video if you need to like run through and listen to me meander through everything again. Otherwise, we're officially done. So I'm going to hang out here for a second in case someone has questions, but I want to make sure I'm cherishing your time. So we're free, done. If you have any questions at all, feel free to connect with me at michael.forrester@webagesolutions.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so just email me if anything comes up. By the way, when you pass, please email me, because then you can be part of the next group of people I get to tell stories about. Okay, so otherwise, have a fabulous Thursday, Wednesday, and a fabulous week.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.